How Islam began in 10 minutes.
How Islam began in under 10 minutes. Not a problem. We've started. Okay, so travel back in time with me to a land far, far away and long, long ago. Mecca and Arabia, about the year 570. Mecca is important for two reasons. One, the Kaaba is there, an ancient temple built to worship God. And two, Muhammad, peace be upon him, was born in Mecca. Now, problem. I can't show you Muhammad, because it wouldn't be right. I'll tell you why in a bit. But in the meantime, here's his name in Arabic. Nice. Back in the day, Mecca was a lawless place. The only way to be safe was to have backup. Lots of rich big brothers who'd beat up anyone who got in your way. So the place was ruled by the most powerful families who could do pretty much what they wanted. And religion didn't help. By this time, the Kaaba had been filled to overflowing with 360 idols that did nothing to help anyone. So it was a tough place to grow up if, like Muhammad, you were a poor orphan and believed in just one God you couldn't see, like the Jews and the Christians. He called him Allah, the God, in Arabic there. Muhammad's dad died before he was even born, and his mum died when he was just 6. So he was brought up by his grandfather, Abdul Muttalib, and then, when he died too, by his uncle, Abu Talib, who had the respect of the city's ruling families, so Muhammad was safe for the time being.
Okay.
Muhammad started out as a shepherd and then became a businessman,
Jesus was a shepherd too.
traveling about buying and selling stuff for rich clients.
He was, right?
When he did
I'm
some
pretty sure
work
about
for a
that.
rich widow called Khadija, she was so impressed by his honesty and skill that they ended up getting married. And for a while, it looked like Muhammad was going places. When he was,
Muhammad and
but not
Khadija.
had anything.
The night
Every
of
year in the
power.
month of Ramadan, different calendar, different names for the months, there was a big party around the Kaaba. When people made sacrifices to the idols, Muhammad hated it. So he'd get out of town and sleep in a cave he'd found on top of a nearby mountain.
I actually didn't know this. Like, okay, I'm not Muslim. I'm Christian, but I didn't know this. I've never ever in my life, I never looked this deep into Islam. But I didn't know that there was a time that people that lived in Mecca or Mecca worshipped different deities, you know,
One night,
like not
Muhammad's
just one
praying
god.
to
Because nowadays they boast about the one god thing, bruh. Like they heavy on that. That's like their motto, bruh.
Allah when wow! There's the angel Jibreel, you might say Gabriel, standing right in front of him. Read, says the angel, but Muhammad couldn't read. No schools, you see. Jibreel keeps on at him. 3 times he says, read. Then he grabs hold of Muhammad and wham! Again, it's like Muhammad's learned the words off by heart. So he recites the message out loud. Read in the name of your Lord, who created man from a drop of blood. Read, for your Lord is most generous. He who taught by the pen, taught man what he did not know. It was a message from Allah. God was speaking
Wait, let me see that again. Let me see that again.
from Allah.
Okay, so read in the name of your Lord, who man created from a drop of blood. Read in the name of Read, for your Lord is the most generous. Read, I mean, not, your Lord is the most generous. He who taught by the pen taught man what he did not know.
God was speaking to him just like he'd spoken to the prophets in the Jewish and Christian holy books, which meant he was a prophet too. The messages continued for the rest of Muhammad's life. Allah gave him the words to say and the prophet recited them. The words were written down by his friends and years later they were collected together and became the Muslim holy book, the Quran, which means recitation, because Muhammad recited it, you see? Anyway, that was much later.
The Quran, which means what? The
The Quran, which means recitation,
recitation.
because Muhammad recited it, you see?
Okay.
Anyway, that was much later. So back to the night of power. Muhammad tells his family, then his friends, and eventually everyone about Allah, that he's the one and only God, that he wants everyone to be treated fairly, and long story short, it didn't go down well with the ruling families of Mecca, who liked things just the way they were. Thank you very much. You see, Islam means obedience to
This thing
Allah,
keeps falling.
and Muslim means someone who obeys Allah, and the ruling families didn't want anyone obeying anyone else but them. So the people who believed in Muhammad's message, the Muslims, were given a hard time. Some were even tortured and killed. A few of them managed to escape to Abyssinia, Ethiopia. But most were stuck in Mecca. Muhammad also had to cope with the death of his wife, and then just a few weeks later, his uncle too. Feeling very...
Okay, so this is why the Muslims not worship, but they find Mecca to be a very holy place, because Muhammad, peace be upon him, was born and raised there. Ah, shit. My bad, guys. Let me just fix this. Otherwise, it's gonna be bothering me the whole time. Okay, I think that's better. I think that's good. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. Yeah, we're good.
Down, he went to the Kaaba to pray to Allah one night. Then, the weirdest thing happened. Jibreel turns up, sits him on a winged horse called Al-Buraq and flies him all the way from Mecca to Jerusalem. He prays with all the prophets who have ever lived. Then, he's taken up to the heavens to chat with some of the prophets, and then into paradise itself, where Allah tells Muhammad to pray 5 times a day and to stay strong. He's returned to Jerusalem and then flies back to the Kaaba in Mecca. We call it the night journey, and Muslims still argue whether it was a real experience or a vision, but whatever, it gave Muhammad a much needed boost, and just as well, because there were more tough times ahead.
Meeting the Yathrib.
So, there was this other city called Yathrib. People there heard about Muhammad and his message, and invited him and his followers to join them. A few at a time, the Muslims left Mecca and made a dangerous journey across the desert to Yathrib. It's known as a hijra, which means migration. You know, like birds do. Muhammad and a few of his friends stayed in Mecca until everyone had got away and then made plans for their own escape. But the ruling families wanted to kill Muhammad while they still could, so 7 sons, one from each family, was sent in the middle of the night to stab the...
So I'm wondering if Muhammad got killed just like Jesus did, because he was also a prophet, so I'm wondering, I'm not sure about that.
But he was way ahead of them, and when they burst into the house, Muhammad was gone. Trackers were sent out to hunt him down. Muhammad and his best friend Abu Bakr took a roundabout route to try and shake off the pursuit, but the trackers were too good and slowly gained on them. So Muhammad and Abu Bakr hid in a cave and prayed that no one found them. The trackers found the cave all right, but they didn't bother going in to search. There was no way Muhammad could be inside, they thought. There was a spider's web over the mouth of the cave and a nesting bird at the entrance. He must have given them the slip. So off they went, leaving Muhammad and Abu Bakr protected by a spider and a bird. Muhammad made it safely to Yathrib, which was renamed Medina al-Nabi, the city of the Prophet, but most people just call it Medina. But Muhammad's worries weren't over yet. There were 3 big battles between the Muslims and the Meccans. First, the Battle of Badr, when Muhammad and just 313 men faced 1,000 Meccan soldiers.
Wait. Oh, this shit. Okay, let me tighten this. Okay, cool. Okay, I think that's, yeah. So you said 300 versus 1,000?
First, the Battle of Badr, when Muhammad and just 313 men faced 1,000 Meccan soldiers. Miraculously, the Muslims won. Then there was the Battle of Uhud, which didn't go so well. Some of Muhammad's men disobeyed his orders and ran off during the battle to raid the Meccans' camp, and so the Muslims were outmaneuvered. Then there was the Battle of the Trench. Medina was protected on 3 sides by mountains, so when the Meccan forces advanced in the city, the Muslims just dug a deep trench. The Meccans made camp, but the weather was terrible. Pouring rain put out their fires and howling winds blew down their tents. Eventually they gave up and went back to Mecca.
Okay.
It was all a bit embarrassing. They were losing the respect of the local tribes who were flocking to join the Muslims. So a peace treaty was signed at Hudaybiyah, but it wasn't long before the Meccans broke it. Muhammad decided that enough was enough. By now he had over 10,000 men, so he led them across the desert to Mecca. The ruling families realized they'd made a huge mistake, but it was too late. All they could do was surrender and hope that the Muslim army killed them quickly. But Muhammad said there should be no more fighting. He rode into Mecca and went straight to the Kaaba. He circled it 7 times anti-clockwise and smashed all the idols, rededicating the Kaaba to Allah. And that's why I'm not going to show you Muhammad. The Muslims wanted to make it
Okay, I get why Muhammad smashed all the other idols, but the thing is, here's my thing about it. Whether those gods or those deities that they were worshipping, whether they were like satanic or whatever it was that they were worshipping, was bad or good, I don't think he has the right to destroy it just because like it's history, you know? Like I feel like that would have been something interesting to see, not something that I'm gonna look into and be, you know, but it's something interesting to see. And another, me personally, I see a lot of clips of Muslims like talking about, oh, there's only one God, but then I've heard people bring up the fact that Muhammad smashed everything else. The only reason they worship one God is because Muhammad smashed everything else. And then a lot of them is like, oh, but you guys believe in 3 gods. Me personally, I don't get too much into the politics of the whole religion thing. I'm Christian, you know. I believe in a God, you know. Yeah, I don't go too deep into this shit, but I fuck with the Muslims though. Like I feel like maybe in my past life I could have been Muslim, but right now I'm Christian. So yeah.
totally clear that they only worship the one unseen God. So they didn't have any pictures of Muhammad in case anyone thought he was an idol, and they didn't have any pictures of Allah because he's like nothing on earth. So it would be impossible to draw him anyway.
Yeah, that's also a thing I don't like about movies and art in general. They tend to draw Jesus a lot, and you can never represent someone you've never seen correctly. So yeah, just don't do it.
So there you go. How Islam began in under 10 minutes. How did I do?
And also the fact that a lot of shows just mock Jesus, bro. I've seen so many times where they just mock Jesus, and Satan is presented so well in movies. Yeah, it's just messed up. Okay, cool. If you're new to the channel, like, comment, subscribe, bring up notifications, you know. I will. This episode is Si Supra. I'm out.